Everybody, welcome to the Data Show. I'm your host, Chris Greco. For the next 30 minutes, we'll be talking about different types of data, where it comes from, how it's used, all the different aspects about, why such data is being used here, there, whatever else. So today, what we're going to talk about is, it's really, I'm just going to put it up there. The Chinese spy balloon. Everybody is just talking about this and talking about this and talking about this. Blah, 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 it goes on and on and on. So what I want to do is present to you and estimated costs. In other words, how much did it cost to down this balloon? So we're going to do that first. And then I want to talk to you about data going from hypothesis into data gathering into basically theoretical aspects. And this is going to be my opinion only. You can take a look at the references in the slides at the end. And you can sit there and make your own conclusion as to whether or not this shooting down this Chinese balloon was really worthwhile. Now, then we have kind of an epilogue as to, what are the things that happened afterwards that are not part of these costs, that should be included in the cost of not just shooting the thing down, but in addition to that, going, retrieving it, doing all those things, and why that to me, my opinion, is probably just ridiculous. The idea of doing it was asinine. Going out there and retrieving this thing, I don't think that's a very good idea at all, based on my experience and intelligence. Now, people are going to sit back and they're going to they're going to rip me a new one on this one because they're going to think I'm full of bull. But the bottom line is this: I give the references, go out and check them, and that's all I ask is to go out and check these things. So let's start out with the Chinese balloon shoot down, right? This is a picture of the F-22. Nice, sleek, beautiful, beautiful aircraft. And this is amazing. So they flew out of Langley. They were launched out of Langley, and they went down to South Carolina, shot down this balloon, and then came back to base. So let's talk about this for a second. What are we talking about? So here is the F-22 aircraft, the fuel capacity, everything else. Again, check on the references. Be more than happy to, tell me I'm full of baloney. I'm fine with that. But the bottom line is, at least it'll get you to go out there and check stuff rather than keeping to listening to the media and their supposed experts on this stuff. I mean, they have people that are experts that are basically these 4-star generals, and I sit back and I go, yeah, okay. I mean, fine. Yeah, honest to goodness, I'd rather hear from like the majors and the captains and lieutenants, things that are down there. But basically, they're, if you retire as a lieutenant or a captain, and nobody's going to listen to you because it's kind of like, well, we want to listen to generals. Great, you listen to generals. Have a good time with that. So, fuel capacity. There's your fuel capacity now. 18,000 pounds of fuel, roughly. It's 6 pounds of fuel per gallon, 6.6. So it's about 2,800 gallons. Now that's only accounting for the internal fuel tanks. There's external, they can put basically pods on there that are full of fuel, and that increases the fuel value. But let's just say it was internal, because there would be no reason to fill these, to have external tanks when you're going up against the balloon. If you're going up against an active target, that's one thing, but going up against the balloon, I don't think you have to worry about external tanks and excessive fuel and all those other things. Gas mileage on an F-22 is about 1.1 nautical mile per gallon. 1.1 nautical mile per gallon. Wasn't that the same as like the old 50 Chevrolets? I can't remember. So that approximately distance from takeoff, Langley Air Force Base to target, and I have a contrived flight path. This is not the flight path I'm about to show you in one of these slides. Is not something I just got down and figured out all that longs. I said, okay, if you're going to go out, you're going to go out over water. Chances are, because you don't want to interrupt. You don't want to interrupt air traffic. So you go out on the east side, you go out to the water, you shoot the balloon down, you come back as much over water as possible. And this is, again, my opinion, based on experience in the Air Force, experience as an intelligence officer. So we're talking about 650 nautical miles. Back and forth. So basically the entire mission is about 650 nautical miles. It doesn't account for any loitering you'd have to do over the target. You buzz around it a couple times to do whatever you're going to do. you loiter around the target to see what's going on. This does not account for takeoff and landing fuel use, which is especially in takeoff is more than when you're at cruise altitude. So getting to that altitude, you're going to use up more fuel. I'm not going to get into that type of detail. Approximately price per gallon of an F-22 fueling is about 650 gallons at approximately $10 per gallon. So that's about $6,500 worth of fuel. Underestimated because of what I just said. Now you sit back and you go, well, Chris, that's not bad, right? However, very important, you must have full fuel for the mission. You can't just go up with saying, just give me exactly the amount of gallons I'm going to need. No, you go up with full fuel. Well, if it's 2,800 gallons times 10, right? $10 per gallon, you come up with about 28. I said 280,000. That's not be 28,000. 28,000. So everything is here is going to be like 1,000 difference. And I'm sorry about. In fact, I'm going to change this right now just so you know it's $28,000. $28,000. So basically, we're talking about $28,000, right? So that's what we're talking about. Now, here's the map of the contrived mission route. You take off from Langley, you go out, you shoot the thing down. They said off the coast of South Carolina, Myrtle Beach. I think it's somewhere in here. So have fun and then come back. So that's basically, this was from Google Earth Pro. It's very easy to get. It's free. It's I mean, it really is a good mapping program, and it does a pretty good job. I could do the elevation between here and there, which of course elevation here is going to be 0, but I mean, the bottom line is that that's what that is all about. Now, F-22 mission armament. Let's go to armament here. The F-22 can carry an AIM-9 missile. It can carry multiple AIM-9 missiles. An AIM-9 missile costs approximately $472,000 per missile. Per missile. The F-22, according to news reports, shot down the balloon with one AIM-9 missile. It cost us $472,000 to down this balloon just from an armament point of view. Some eyewitness reports seeing 2 missiles, which would automatically make it twice that, which would make it close to $1 million. So $1 million worth of weapons to shoot down a balloon. It gets more ridiculous as we go on here, folks. There were no reports of the guns being used by the F-22, so no other weapon was deployed to destroy the balloon other than the AIM-9 missile. It's heat seeker, which is interesting because, I don't know how much heat this thing puts off, but evidently enough so that they could shoot it down with the AIM-9. Okay. The human factor. This is not normally counted, but this has got to be counted when you talk about an F-22. So you have one pilot flying. Normally an Air Force captain, I put that out because it's kind of averaging the rank here, at a cost of approximately $41,000 average per year. I got that in the reference. You can check it. If the mission took 5 hours, it costs about $64 for the actual flight, based on hourly wage at $41,000 a year. So that's how much it costs for the individual to fly the mission. Now, however, you can't just sit down at F-22, strap on your F-22 and let it rip. So you have to count the training time. So to count the training time, it'd be approximately 3 years, and that's underestimation. 3 years, which would be a cost of $120,000. Now, that's just the pilot, folks. I remember there was an old Air Force poster, had a pilot sitting in front of I think it was like F-4 Phantom, which shows the dated of that picture. But basically what it was you had all these people standing behind this pilot, and it basically says you need all these people to keep him in the air, to keep the pilot in the air. So you do, and we're not even going to get into all that. We're just going to get into some of them. So you have to have maintenance, you have to have air traffic control, you have to have security. I mean, there's security on the base specifically for this F-22, as well as the entire flight line. The fuels crew, because you can't just pull up to a pump with your credit card. These are fuel trucks that come out and they actually fuel the aircraft. So, and the armament. So all that comes to approximately $15 per hour. Now, I took into consideration it was an E5. All right. Again, you can look up an E5 pay in the Air Force. It comes to $15 per hour, $75 for the mission, given the average rank of the crew members is E5. Now, that's one crew member. Multiply that times approximately 20 crew members, and that's $1,500 for the mission. Okay. So, uh, well, it's not 15. It's yeah, it's $1,500 for the mission, right? So now you sit back and you go, well, wait a minute now. Again, you have to consider all the training that went in to the ability for these people to maintain, to fuel, to you can't just say, hey, here's a fuel truck, take it out there and just, put it in a little hole that says fuel and let it rip until it overflows and then you're done. It doesn't work that way. It never works that way. So take into consideration training for the crew. So we'll say at least 1 year for every crew member as an estimate, but probably more. That's $36,000 for an E5 times 20 crew members. So now we're up to $720,000. That's the human factor. Okay. So the total was, and this I'm going to have to, I'm going to go back here because this is not going to be correct. That's not going to be 280,000. It's going to be 28,000. So if you take that consideration, so the fuel cost is going to be approximately $6,500. The armament costs $472,000 or $1 million if you fired off 2 missiles. The pilot cost $120,000. Crew costs $720,000. So the total cost is going to be 28,000. I had 280,000. So since you're with me, what I'm going to do is literally I'm going to go ahead and add this thing up right now in front of you so that you have an idea as to what we're talking about. So basically we have we're going to have and we'll just put this here. We go. So we're going to have 28,000, right? Plus 472,000 plus 120,000 plus 720,000, right? And that's going to be 1,340,000. Okay, 1,340,000. So we're going to just do 340 here. 1,340,000. Now, interestingly enough, when you take a look at this, you sit back and you go, hey, this is over $1 million. That's right, over $1 million to launch one mission. And I think a lot of people don't realize how expensive it is to launch a mission. I mean, this is very expensive, and that's not taking into consideration the cost of the aircraft. I didn't even consideration the billions of cost for those aircraft, right? So now we're sitting there saying so it costs $1,340,000 of taxpayers' money with risk to life from the pilot and some of the crew, mainly maintenance, fuels, armament, those types of. I mean, that is all risk. They're taking basically human risk to be able to put this thing in the air. They do every time they load on bombs, every time they fuel, every time they maintain. There's people that die. The maintenance. Some of these people die in maintenance. Trying to maintain these aircraft. So it's really important you understand that. And this cost is underestimated. It's based on experience and knowledge, my experience, my knowledge, and the facts that I've been able to get in there. So what's the return on investment? Possible intelligence gathering methodology from the Chinese, doubtful. I mean, they already state in the news, and I hate to quote the news because I hate quoting the news, is that there were explosives on board. Oh my God, there were explosives on board. Of course there are explosives on board because it's self-destruct. I mean, if I'm sure that they probably, like I said, it's probably a bunch of twisted metal that they got off of the the bottom of the bottom of the shelf there, right off the coast. Being able to manufacture countermeasures against Chinese surveillance, doubtful, but possible. Bottom line, did the action by the military save lives? I think that's the important part. If the balloon would have malfunctioned and jettisoned the weight-bearing load, then it may have fallen on the U.S., may have fallen on a populated area. There was a risk to life at that point in time. However, the balloon was allowed to transit the United States following the jet stream. You can see that in my episode on Worldview, which talks about the Chinese balloon incident. It followed the jet stream, folks. They can sit there and say, "Oh, it was steered," all you want. If you take the jet streams and you take the path of that balloon, you're going to find that it basically followed the jet stream. Hello, of course it's going to follow the jet stream. Anyways, that's beside the point. The shoot down of the balloon did not save lives. And I think this is very, very important. People wanted this thing shot down to say, hey, you're not allowed to transit our country. As I've said before, anything above 60,000 feet is uncontrolled airspace. Anything can pass along that area as long as there's a couple of issues. One is it's not um, going to harm human lives within that country. It's a term of national security. And there is no fact, there's not one single fact that has been brought out of this whole thing that this thing was really a Chinese spy balloon, that it was spying on the country. They said it was a weather balloon. And I've already stated that when Francis Gary Powers was shot down in the 1960s, Eisenhower stated that it had to do with it was a weather, the U-2 was actually weather surveillance, which it was not. It was actually a spy plane. So I mean, both countries do this, folks. It's just the way things are. So the return on investment for the cost, negligible at this point. So that's talking about the cost, right? And I think that's interesting to say. Have we ever tried the balloon trick? Oh yeah, we tried it in 2015 to put radars at 10,000 feet on moored balloons. Result: unbelievable failure, galactic failure. It was horrible, and fodder for every media outlet and comedian in 2015. What happened? The balloon broke its moorings and basically dragged a wire across 2 states. So, I mean, you want the story, the whole story, see the last entry in the reference section and have a good laugh over this whole thing, because it made the Army contractor that did this, as well as the United States Army, as well as the Department of Defense, a laughing stock. So, I mean, the bottom line on this whole thing is, yeah, we tried it before. No, it didn't really work. So are we mad because the Chinese were able to do it? I don't know. I don't understand. Here are all the references. I'm going to leave this up for a little bit. So those people that want to take a picture of it or whatever else, here's all the references on these, and you can take a look at this, and you can sit there and say, Chris, you're full of horse poop, or whatever else you want to say. But the bottom line is this is what we're talking about, and that's what we're doing. So that's the first part of what we talk about when we talk about data, right? So it was data. I gathered all this data from different sources and was able to put together this presentation, briefing, whatever we're going to call it, about the F-22 shoot down, right? And when you take a look at this whole thing, you're going to sit there and say, but Chris, General Umthrafratz said this, or Colonel blah 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 said this, and I'm saying that I spent most of my career, I shouldn't say most of my career, I would say over 50% of my career was done in intelligence. All the way from as a flight commander, all the way up to director of operations. So I mean, I know what it takes to collect intelligence, and I know sources and methods. I understand this stuff. The bottom line is this: is that the intelligence community understood what was going on. I don't understand why they didn't open their mouths. I don't understand why they didn't just, hey, this is a situation. But again, we're into politics, and I just don't want to get into politics and the whole thing. Both sides, talking about, hey, you got to shoot this down. No, you don't shoot this down. I'm going to shoot this down over here. We're going to shoot this down. And I sitting back going, shouldn't have shot it down at all, folks. Should not have wasted $500,000 on this thing. You shouldn't have wasted 1 cent on it. Let it go through the country. Let it do whatever it needs to do. And then the bottom line is it's hilarious to just let it go. I mean, as long as it's above 60,000 feet. Now, if it gets into controlled airspace, if it gets down below that 60,000 feet, oh yeah, blow it out of the sky. It's done. But as long as it's above 60,000 feet, what does that mean? Does that mean we're going to start shooting down satellites because they're above 60,000 feet? So I mean, it just goes nutsy cuckoo. So that basically is what's going on there. And I think this is important to understand, is that no matter what we do, no matter how it works, that we have that. Now, this is something that I would like to share with you. And a lot of people are going to sit there and say, "Oh, wow, this guy's really gone off the deep end." But the bottom line, in any research study or any study or anything else, basically what you do is you have a hypothesis. And then what you do is then you try to prove or disprove that hypothesis, or statistically, however you want, statistical significance, however you want to do that. But this is where we're doing this. So this is going to be really interesting. Building the case for the Chinese Trojan horse. All right, so those of you that don't know the Trojan horse story, Troy, Greece had a war. Troy lost. The reason Troy lost was because and they called it the Trojan horse, is because basically They allowed enemy troops to come in their gates thinking that they were getting a prize, when in actuality it was holding enemy troops. The enemy troops came out after dark and basically burned the city, and the rest is all history or mythology or whatever you want to talk about. So that's basically what we have there. So this is what we call that's what I call the Chinese Trojan horse. So here's my hypothesis. Chinese wanted the US to shoot down the spy balloon. I mean, think about this for a second. They knew that the US or Canada would down the spy balloon. They knew it. They had to have known it. They knew that the US or Canada would try to recover the remnants. They knew that the US or Canada would take the recovered items to a sensitive location, which they have. They knew that the US or Canada would examine the remnants in that location. They knew that they would not be able to get information on that sensitive location through many other means, other than maybe the spies that they have throughout the country. All right. So what they did was, this is what they did. So here's the presumptions that led to this conclusion. And basically what it is that Chinese spy balloon is a Trojan horse. That thing, because we think, oh, we downed it. It's, it's totally passive. It's inert, no problems. Everything's good. They bring it in to the sensitive location. Folks, this is exactly what I would do as an enemy. I would make it so that it would look like the US is just so fantastically superior to the Chinese, because after all, they downed a balloon, and they did it with a $500,000 missile, multi-billion-dollar aircraft. Yeah, I mean, they could have they could have done it with somebody with a big gigantic pin. I don't know, but the bottom line is it's just hilarious to think of it that situation happened. So, fact, the Chinese, as well as any other country capable of doing it, has satellites that are surveilling the United States and other countries. That is a fact. There's not presumption. There's a fact. It's open source, folks. Everybody does it. Okay. Everybody that has capability. Fact, the Chinese are starting to expand their military footprint around the world, starting with Africa. They have one base right now outside of the Chinese area, and it's called Djibouti. It's in the Horn of Africa. They're starting to expand. They're starting to expand their presence, right? Expand their presence. And this is what, and part of that is because we like to have satellite readers, different satellite ground stations, different areas. They would like to have that too. So they're going to start doing that. A postulation. A sonic weapon was responsible for the US Embassy personnel in Cuba ailments. The people that had those problems, whatever else. A sonic weapon was responsible for that. Postulation. I'm not saying that's fact. I see the media said that. I'm just saying, and the reason is because, fact, we have developed a sonic method for hacking devices, cell phones, and other smart devices. We've done this. We've done this already. See the references. Fact, China academics have been involved in the use of sonic devices for hacking. As a matter of fact, they are partners in research studies done by US having to do with sonic devices. So, some presumptions. China has the ability to perform sonic intercept. China has a technical ability to incorporate these technical aspects on their devices. China can perform sonic intercept. We now have the technical platform from the Chinese spy balloon. We do not know the specifics of this technology on board the balloon. We have no idea what's in there. So why would you take something you have know nothing about, or what, we flew U2 around it, a couple of times. So, we could kind of get, I don't give a crap what you did from the standpoint of external aspects. You have no idea what the internal workings of that thing is unless you have a spy in China. So the bottom line is that we're going to retrieve the technical platform and bring it back for study. Where are you going to do it? On a sensitive area. The Chinese will have activated devices on that technical platform while destroying those that we're naturally looking for. So it could be embedded in steel, it could be embedded in whatever, aluminum, whatever they have there. That the device could be embedded in that, because the sonic aspects go through solid objects. The Chinese will have locators activated. We've done that with computers here. A guy did that to track his computer all the way to a recycling plant or recycling area over in China. So if he can track something from here to China, doesn't it seem logical that they can track something from China here? I mean, the Chinese will now have the location of sensitive buildings along with any other information they can gather. The Chinese will use this information in the order of battle background for any further U.S. interaction. They now know something that we don't know, right? Suggestions: do not pick up the debris of the Chinese spy balloon. Already done. Totally destroy the remnants that are left of the balloon. Totally destroy them. I mean, dust, right? Tell the Chinese that any further incursions in the U.S. Canadian airspace by even passive objects will be met with escorting passive object to ground or destruction. Do not allow China to be involved in sensitive research studies with US and NATO scientists. Why are we doing this? I understand it's academics, but oh my God, you got to be kidding me. I mean, we've already figured out that Chinese academics are involved with the communist agenda, the PRC. Why are we giving them? Why are we allowing them to? Anyways, ensure that any contact with the remnants of spy balloon is treated as if the technical platform has either computer or real virus. Period. Hazardous, hazmats should be, copper lined. Everything should make sure that whatever happens within that study area can be absolutely quarantined to just that study area. I am assuming, praying that they're doing this, but I know a little bit too much about the intelligence community where you tend to make mistakes. Here are the references when we talk about that. The ultrasonic devices and whatever else is going on. All this stuff is open source, folks. All this stuff there's nothing here that I'm telling you that is not already out in open source. There's nothing. You can do this type of research. This is what is called data. You collect the data. You try to figure out if your theories are going to make any sense from that standpoint. Now, after this is all done, and when this is all finished and whatever else is going on, people are going to sit back and they're going to say horse poop, which is fine. I'm okay with that. I put this stuff out there because I want people to have an open mind with this stuff. I mean, I'm a retired military. I respect the military. I'm sure that pilot that shot down that balloon is not feeling all that well from the standpoint of, the mission that he or she had to run, how it worked, whatever else. He or she got back alive. There were no injuries, there were no casualties. So I think that it considers to be a very successful mission. And that's important. That is important. But we do, in the military, we do what our bosses tell us to do from the standpoint of reasonable aspects. And that was reasonable. Go shoot down the balloon. Got it, boss. Kick the tires, light the fires. We're gonna get up there. We're gonna, fire away, blow the thing up, bring it down, and then we're gonna retrieve it and do whatever. Okay. I mean, the pilot's responsibility ends at the moment that the sortie ends. That's it. It's like, okay, sortie, successful sortie, which is good. I mean, I'm glad nobody was hurt. Cool. So that's basically the data show for today. And I just want to make sure that people understand that there's so many things, so many ways of being able to collect data. Get data, collect it, verify the data. That's something that I didn't do probably as well as I should have done. But the bottom line is that if it's thought provoking, if it presents something that you wouldn't normally think of, then to me it's something to share. So on that note, this is Chris Greco, and I will say goodbye from the Data Show, and thank you for watching. Hopefully you'll be able to see the show on Pod TV, but if not, I will have it on my on Grec Tech, on my GRECTECH, on my channel on YouTube, and that'll go up probably today, which is 7th of February. And thank you again. Thank you so much for listening and patience. I appreciate that, because I know it's tough to sometimes when I get on my soapbox for people to listen. So I do appreciate your patience on this whole thing. You take care of yourselves, stay healthy, and remember, always, question what the data is all about, and question how it can be done better, and do the research. Until next time, ciao.